Have you ever stopped to think about that incredible, often underestimated ability we all possess, yet rarely truly master? I'm talking about listening. It's just so much more than just hearing sounds, isn't it? It's about connecting, understanding, truly absorbing. And, in high-stakes fields like healthcare, effective listening isn't just, well, polite. It's absolutely essential. It can literally be a matter of patient safety and getting the care right. Today on the Deep Dive, we're going to unlock the secrets behind what's formally called rozwijanie umiejętności słuchania w opisie zdrowotnym, which for our English-speaking listeners, that simply translates to developing listening skills in healthcare. And for our specific focus, it's the OET, the Occupational English Test, specifically its listening subtest. So our mission for you today is like a rapid shortcut. We want you to truly understand the core skills you need to master listening in these really critical healthcare contexts. Think of it maybe as gaining X-ray vision for conversations. We'll cover some surprising insights and actionable strategies you can literally start using by the end of this deep dive.
That's a great way to put it. And this deep dive, it really isn't just about preparing for one specific test. It's fundamentally about developing crucial communication skills that mirror real-life interactions, things that are absolutely transferable. We're talking about everything from those nuanced exchanges in sensitive patient consultations to the rapid-fire information flow you get in professional briefings, even the vital details exchanged during ward handovers.
Great.
Because what's truly valuable about knowledge, well, it's when it's not just understood in theory, right? It's when it's authentically applied in practice.
Okay, so if listening truly is this superpower, then the OET listening subtest is like its intensive training ground. You said it's specifically designed to challenge and refine your ability to understand spoken English in those exact healthcare scenarios you mentioned. Consultations, briefings. So how exactly does this training ground work? What's the structure?
It's quite structured, actually. The subtest runs for approximately 45 minutes, and it's clearly divided into 3 distinct parts. Each one is designed to progressively challenge different facets of your listening ability. And here's a crucial detail to remember. All the audio recordings, they're played only once. You write your answers directly onto the question paper as you listen, which really tests your immediate comprehension and your note-taking skills.
Played only once. Okay, that definitely ups the stakes. And those 3 parts, they break down quite logically, you mentioned. So part A is first.
That's right. Part A throws you right into 2 patient consultations. You'll have 24 questions for those 2. And it focuses heavily on your ability to capture specific factual information.
Okay, specific facts. Then part B.
Part B presents 6 short workplace extracts. Think brief huddles or maybe interprofessional conversations. Just 6 questions here, 1 for each extract. And you'll be focusing on detail or the overall gist, or even picking up on the speaker's attitude or purpose.
More nuance there. And finally, part C.
Part C includes 2 longer presentations or interviews. There are 12 questions in total, 6 for each. And here the challenge shifts to a deeper level, listening for inference, opinion, the speaker's overarching message. It gets more complex.
Right, so it builds up. How does the scoring work across these?
It's pretty straightforward. Each question is worth 1 mark. The overall score for the subtest is then scaled from 0 to 500. Just to give you a benchmark, achieving a grade B, which is often the target for healthcare professionals, that's roughly equivalent to getting around 30 out of the 42 questions correct. What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how precisely the test assesses these varied listening skills. From basic information recall, all the way up to complex inference and critical understanding of, quite nuanced conversations. It's a comprehensive workout for that listening superpower.
A workout, I like that. So with that big picture in mind, where should we start our deep dive into the individual components? Maybe part A makes sense, since that's often where candidates build their foundational listening skills with those patient consultations. You're completing notes with short answers there, so what's the core challenge?
Yeah, part A. The core challenge is precision. Absolute precision. The key skills being assessed are your ability to rapidly identify things like symptoms, timelines, treatments, relevant medical history, very specific details. You also need to follow the natural flow of a consultation, which can sometimes meander a bit, right? From the initial greeting, through the detailed information gathering, and finally to the closing advice. And crucially, you must spell names, medications, and conditions correctly. Even 1 letter out can be marked as incorrect. It's all about that sharp attention to detail.
Wow, okay, precision and spelling. The source gives some really specific strategies for part A, which sound quite insightful. For instance, you get 30 seconds to preview the notes before the audio even starts. That seems important.
Oh, absolutely. That 30 seconds isn't just downtime, it's a strategic advantage. You really want to use it wisely.
How so? what should you be doing?
You'll want to use predictive listening. Scan the gaps in the notes. Try to anticipate what kind of information is missing. Is it a noun, a verb, a number, a condition? This essentially tells your brain what to listen for. It significantly reduces your cognitive load and makes you far more efficient at capturing those crucial details, especially when time is so tight.
That makes a lot of sense, priming your brain. And the source mentioned something surprising. Many candidates overlook listening for synonyms.
Yes, that's a big one. The audio might say, for example, chest discomfort, but the gap in your nose might imply something like tightness in the chest. You need to recognize that connection. They often paraphrase.
Right, and keep answers concise, 1 to 3 words typically.
Exactly, short and to the point. And always double check your grammar and spelling as you write.
The source had a good example. If the notes prompt reads, "The patient reports when climbing stairs," and the audio says, "I get really breathless whenever I go up a flight of stairs," your answer is just
Breathlessness. Simple, precise. It really highlights how crucial that exact listening is in a patient-facing role, where every single detail genuinely matters.
Okay, so part A is about precision, nailing those critical details. But you mentioned real-world healthcare isn't always so direct. Sometimes it's about picking up on subtle cues, the underlying purpose, or someone's attitude. That sounds like the shift we see in part B, with those 6 short workplace recordings.
You've hit on the key difference there, yes. For part B, the core skills involve identifying the explicit purpose, or the implied attitude, or the specific advice being given. You also need to quickly distinguish between facts and opinion, and grasp the main point of what's being said, even if it's conveyed quite subtly. It's less about transcribing words and more about immediate, nuanced comprehension. It's like listening with your emotional intelligence switched on.
Listening with emotional intelligence, I like that. And the strategies here sound equally pointed, almost like a mental checklist you run through.
Pretty much. Always read the question first. That primes your ear for what to focus on. Underline keywords in the multiple choice options. That helps you filter the audio as you listen. And critically, listen specifically for emphasis, for tone of voice, and those crucial contrast words like however or actually. Those are often signposts to the correct answer. And then, strategically eliminate the distractors. They're designed to sound plausible, but they're usually just slightly off.
Can you give an example of how that might work with the distractors and keywords?
Sure. Imagine the question is, what does the doctor advise the nurse to do? And the options are A, send the patient home, B, monitor the patient overnight, C, increase dosage. Now, if the audio says, let's not discharge him just yet, I think we should keep him under observation for at least 1 more night. What's the answer?
Okay, not discharge him yet rules out A, keep him under observation for 1 more night, strongly points to B, monitor overnight, dosage isn't mentioned, so B.
Exactly. Notice how the doctor doesn't explicitly say monitor, but keep him under observation is a clear synonym in this context. It perfectly illustrates how subtle phrasing and recognizing those synonyms, even in multiple choice, can be the key. It's about listening for the meaning, not just hunting for the exact words.
Right, that's a great example. Meaning over exact words. Okay, so we've zeroed in on part A's precision and part B's nuance. But what happens when the information isn't just nuanced, but also comes at you in a much longer stream? When you need to navigate a more complex conversation or presentation? That sounds like the challenge in part C, with those 2 extended monologues or interviews, 4 or 5 minutes each. How do you maintain focus over that length?
Yeah, but part C definitely tests your listening stamina. The key skills here are about long-form comprehension. It's your ability to follow structured speech, identify main ideas even when they're maybe buried a bit, spot supporting examples, and discern the speaker's overall attitude or bias. It's also vital to recognize what we call signposting phrases, things like, I'd like to start by, or another point worth noting is, oh, in conclusion. These are like navigational beacons in a longer discussion. They guide you to the key information points. But this does raise an important question. How do we effectively map and pull out the most important information from these more complex discussions without getting completely lost?
That's exactly what I was wondering. It can feel a bit overwhelming trying to hold all that information in your head for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So what are the strategies for part C? Sounds like it involves a bit more upfront work and a lot of mental agility.
It does. You should definitely preview all the questions for that section before the audio even begins. This gives you a mental framework, an idea of what topics will be covered. Then, as the audio plays, actively track the structure, because the questions generally follow the order of the information presented in the audio. That helps keep you oriented. And here's a crucial one. If you miss a question or you're unsure about a piece of information, don't panic. Seriously, just move on. If you dwell on it, you'll almost certainly miss the answer to the next question. Cut your losses and refocus. And similar to Part B, watch carefully for those distractors in the multiple choice options. They're often subtle.
Don't panic, move on. Easier said than done, but crucial advice. Can you walk us through a Part C example, maybe with discerning the main concern?
Okay, let's say a question asks, what is the speaker's main concern about current antibiotic usage? The options might be A, they're too expensive, B, the problem of resistance, or C, they're ineffective against viruses. Now, the speaker might touch on cost, might mention viruses, but then they say something like, the overuse of antibiotics, particularly when they're not needed, is creating an alarming rise in resistance. That's what worries me most. Which answer is it?
Okay, the key phrase there is, that's what worries me most. So even if other points were mentioned, the main concern is clearly resistance.
Precisely. It highlights the importance of listening for those explicit cues about the speaker's main point or primary concern and distinguishing it from other, maybe secondary points within that longer discussion.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've covered the specifics of A, B, and C. Beyond those section-specific strategies, let's shift our focus maybe to some practical, hands-on techniques that can amplify this listening superpower across the board, starting with effective note-taking. Because, let's be honest, who hasn't been in a fast-paced meeting trying to scribble everything down and ending up with, well, hieroglyphics?
Absolutely. Effective note-taking is so crucial, especially when you only hear the audio once. And the why behind it is simple. It offloads some of that cognitive burden. Your brain can focus more on listening if your hand is doing some of the recording work efficiently. You should definitely use abbreviations. Standard medical ones are great, like PT for patient, CO for complains of, maybe SOB for shortness of breath. But develop your own too. Don't try to write full sentences, just key words, nouns, verbs, key adjectives. Using columns can be helpful too, perhaps one for symptoms and another for treatment, to keep things organized visually. And practicing shorthand is really useful. Simple symbols, an upward arrow for increased, downward arrow for decreased, RX for treatment or prescription. And here's a fantastic tip. Practice your note-taking with mock tests. Then afterwards, compare your messy notes with the official transcripts. See what you missed, see where your abbreviations worked or didn't, see how you could have been faster or clearer. It's a real game changer for improvement.
Comparing notes to transcripts, that's a very practical step. And it's just as important, I suppose, to address common errors. Those sneaky pitfalls that even, experienced listeners might fall into without realizing it. The sources highlight issues like over-listening, getting bogged down in too much detail.
Yes, that's a common one. Trying to catch everything instead of focusing on what the task requires.
Also, poor time management, especially in Part A, where you're writing a lot.
Definitely. Falling behind on the notes is easy to do.
And misreading or maybe misinterpreting the questions in Parts B and C.
Not quite grasping what's being asked before listening.
Ignoring unfamiliar accents, just sort of tuning out if it's difficult.
That can happen, yeah. Leads to missed information.
And of course, those pesky spelling mistakes we already mentioned for Part A.
Right. So each of those errors has a solution, and it's usually rooted in understanding why it happens. For that over-listening, the key is to actively shift your focus. Train yourself to listen for the specific information needed, not just at every single word. Filter more aggressively. To combat poor time management, especially in Part A, using those abbreviations effectively and practicing your scanning skills really is your best friend. Speed comes with practice. If you're misreading questions in B and C, it often means you need to slow down during the preview time. Really analyze the question and options. Listen more carefully for tone, emphasis, and those subtle details during the audio. For accents, the solution is pretty straightforward. Broaden your exposure. Use practice materials that feature lots of different accents: Australian, British, American, Irish, others. Familiarity reduces that cognitive friction. And for spelling mistakes, create a dedicated spelling list. Every time you review a transcript and find a word you misspelled or were unsure of, add it to your list, especially common medical terms. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these seemingly small errors can have surprisingly big impacts on your overall comprehension and, your score. Addressing them systematically is a direct path to unlocking more of that listening superpower.
That's really practical advice. Focus, abbreviations, exposure to accents, a spelling list. So we've taken a really deep dive today into the OET Listening subtest. We've explored its structure, the specific skills it assesses in each part, and dug into some really effective strategies. We've also covered practical tips for note-taking and, importantly, how to cleverly sidestep those common errors. And these techniques, as you said, they aren't just about acing a test. They're about building tangible confidence. Confidence in recognizing complex medical language, understanding those crucial patient cues, and really mastering the art of professional communication. I feel like our listeners have gained some vital insights.
And that's truly the broader significance, isn't it? Mastering these skills, it's crucial not just for success on a standardized test like OET, but for the very real demands of everyday healthcare practice. In a world that's just flooded with information and often, unfortunately, misinformation or just overload critical thinking and precise comprehension, precise listening, they really are essential. This test is simply a focused way to develop skills you'll genuinely use every single day on the job.
Absolutely. And just to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to mull over after this deep dive. How might applying these highly specific listening strategies we talked about, the predictive listening, the intense focus on keywords, that keen attention to tone and emphasis, how might applying those to your everyday conversations, even completely outside a medical context, transform your ability to understand and connect with others more deeply? Imagine what a difference that could make, not just professionally, but personally too. We encourage you to reflect on that.